You are now tuned in to the Chasing Genius show. I am your host, Crystal, and today we're going to be talking a lot about personal projects. Have you ever wondered how your favorite creatives get the clients that they do, get the cool work that they get to do, the opportunities? How do they find that kind of work? So that's what we're going to be unpacking today. Personal projects. I think most creatives know what personal projects are. They're the projects that you do because you want to do them, you feel like doing them, they excite you, they make you they remind you of why you wanted to start creating in the first place. And oftentimes, if you're like myself, who work as a full-time creative in advertising or as a marketer or whatever your creative field is, or you don't work in a creative field, personal projects are a way to kind of get back into the groove and to do work that you genuinely care about. Most of the advice that I've heard in terms of how do I get to make the work that I want to make and get paid for it? We're in 2024. We don't want to do free work anymore. We want to do work and get paid for our time, get paid for our efforts, get paid for our ideas, essentially. Personal projects kind of feel like free work. I'm not getting paid for it. It's not really going to go anywhere besides my portfolio. It's work I do because I love it, but it isn't necessarily bringing me closer to what I want to do. And that's the part where I think a lot of people tend to be wrong. You see, personal projects are kind of the gateway to being able to do the work that you want to do. You have full creative control, which if you're working with a client or you're working with a brand or for a campaign, oftentimes you don't have full creative control. You're working with a team of other creatives and everyone has their own ideas on how they see the vision. And if you're working with someone who's, above you, such as a creative director, a group creative director, associate creative director, senior creatives, if you're the entry level, you're the junior like I am, I don't have no type of creative control oftentimes. Like I get to share and pitch ideas, but oftentimes I'm not the one that's like, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to look like. These are the colors that we're going to go. I still have, parameters of how I can do certain things. Like if a brand has a certain font, then that's the only font I can use. If the brand's colors are, these four curated, pre-selected palettes, then I can't necessarily experiment too much beyond, the boundaries that they've already set, because that's the brand guidelines. If you're a designer, you know a lot about brand guidelines, and sometimes you don't want to look at a brand guideline. You want to have more creativity and more, say in how something looks like. Well, if you have a personal project, then you get to do whatever the hell you want to do on the project. If you want to use this font, who's to say you can't? If you want to use this color, who's to say you can't? If you want to shoot in the studio versus not shoot in the studio, if you want to use this color palette versus that color palette, that's really your opportunity to shine and showcase how you like to work, what your creative process is like. That is something that I think every creative wants. Every creative wants to have that full creative control over a project, and a personal project is one of the best ways to do that. The second thing I would say personal projects are really good for is that it allows you to showcase the work that you want to be hired for. When I was first starting out in photography, I wasn't really sure what my style or my visual language was. And because I didn't know exactly where I fit, I pretty much did everything. Like I did wedding photography, I did events, I did concerts, I did graduation shoots, I did all types of portrait photography to then kind of narrow in to the style of work that I like to do. So personal projects allow you the chance to experiment, to try new things, to test things out, and not necessarily feel bound to any type of thing. I learned quickly that I hated I didn't really like shooting wedding photography that much. I will do it, if you're my really good friend, but in terms of like large scale of like doing weddings and like that's my bread and butter, I knew it wasn't really something that fit my style and the way that I work and the types of stories that I wanted to tell. So being able to do that, you are quickly learning, this is what I like to do. This is my style. This is what I'm into. This is what I'm not into. I tried this out and it didn't quite work. So let me try something different. And then it's also giving you an opportunity to learn what you really love to do and what you want to be paid to do. So I love fashion, so I will shoot a lot more fashion photography than anything else. And I love people. So I wouldn't choose a landscape type of campaign if I know that I love photographing people. And that's where, I get the most, lit up. And I feel more like that is where my voice and my perspective as a photographer is. So then if I fill my portfolio with work that, represents what I'm into, the likelihood of me being hired for projects that fit that goes up, because now I have a portfolio of personal work that I've done that I believe represent my creative voice and what I'm into. When you work as a creative, you don't know necessarily who your clients are, what they like, who their persona is, but you get to dictate, like, this is the kind of work I want to be paid for. This is the kind of influence that I want to have. And you are allowed to then do that. One of my favorite examples of this is photographer Andre Wagner, who is a black and white film photographer based out of Brooklyn, New York. And he shoots only film, only in black and white. He has a handful of color film photography here and there, but his main style of shooting is shooting in black and white. And I remember listening or reading one of his interviews where he talked about when he was doing black and white, people were like, nah, you shouldn't do it. You're not going to get hired for that. Black and white is so phased out. Nobody wants to, we have all these digital cameras and that shoot at high pixels and shoot color, et cetera, et cetera. Why would you just, try to just shoot only black and white and limit yourself? But he was like, nah, this is my style. This is my voice. And I'm sure many of you have seen the film Queen and Slim. The cover for that movie is, one, it's black and white and it's photographed by Andre Wagner. So you see, he's now getting these big time gigs in the style and in the voice that fits his personality, his identity, his creative voice. And because he was so consistent and persistent in shooting the work that best suits him and what he likes and what his vibe is, now he's getting paid not just because he shoots black and white, but because they want his unique creative perspective as a film photographer, as a photographer, as an artist. So again, you want your personal projects to be work that you want to be hired for. And in doing that, you'll start to realize who and what your identity is. And that's really ultimately all that you want. And the third reason to do personal projects is that, or more so a reminder, is that you have everything you need in this moment to create what it is that you want to create. And the rest will come with time. So yes, you might not have the fancy lights or the fancy cameras, the fancy paintbrushes, the fancy DJ turntable, the fancy mic in my case, but you have everything that you need to be able to do the things that you want to do and that will bring you closer to what your ultimate vision is. So when you're creating this portfolio of your personal work, being able to do with a little bit shows that once you are given that big budget, you getting paid them buku bucks to do what you want to do, you already know what you can do with the little that you have. And you're not afraid of kind of like leaning in and being able to maximize that. When we do personal projects, they give us the opportunity to work with other creatives in our area who are also, on the same level playing field as us, who are also grinding, who are also hustling. Maybe, a model who's looking to build their portfolio. Maybe, an artist who's looking for somebody to share a beat to, or a beat to, make a track to, and things like that. You are able to, one, build community within your little environment, while also being able to expand your horizons and be able to create as freely as you want, without limits, without boundaries, without being placed in a box. Because as quiet as it's kept, yes, being paid to be a creative is probably the best things ever it also has its own limitations. And oftentimes, the biggest limitation is that you do not have creative control over what that output is because you're trying to meet a company's bottom line. So while you have the opportunity to be able to do the work that you want and the work that gives you that joy, that gives you life and allows you to express yourself as authentically as possible, it's best to do something through your personal projects, through your personal work with friends that you love and build a community around that. See, that is the best part of having personal projects is now you're meeting people, if you need design work, now you can work with local designers. Maybe you need photo work, you can work with local photographers. Maybe you're a photographer who's looking for models. Now you can work with local models. And through that, you're expanding your horizons through your own personal projects. And you get to tell the stories, you get to connect with the people, you get to do the things that bring you life. And in doing that, now you have a portfolio of work that truly expresses your creative identity. So in this year, I really want to encourage everyone who, is feeling a bit kind of down, not necessarily getting the creative gigs that they want or getting paid for the ideas that they pitch and nothing ever happens with it. Go and make it yourself, with whatever resources you do have, go and make it yourself. And in doing that, you'll be able to build the work and a world around that. And then very soon, people are going to be knocking on your door asking you to do exactly what you did in your own personal work. And now you've, kind of created a universe around your way of thinking. So thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for the next video. And remember, the genius in me sees the genius in you. And I'm always, always rooting for you. Peace.